Here's my tutorial for how to make this cute felt mitten ornament that also doubles as a gift card holder. In your kit, you'll get a little booklet with these stencils and the supplies needed. You're going to cut off the cuff at the bottom of the mitten, and you can pin it to the felt or trace it with a heat erasing pen. And you'll go ahead and cut out 2 of those felt shaped mittens. Then you'll cut the scalloped piece for the cuffs out of the white felt. And you'll need 2 of those as well, one for the front and one for the back. And then you can choose your design. In this case, I'm using the Christmas tree. And with the mitten facing down, we're going to peel and stick our design right onto the mitten. The wrist will be at the top so that we can fill the top of the mitten, and you'll trim your sticker, any of the edges that are hanging off. Now this embroidery floss has 6 strands that are woven together, and I just find where it naturally divides and split it in half, 3 and 3. You want a piece that's about 24 to 30 inches long. We thread the needle on one end, and that tail will just hang loose, and the other end we knot. So I like to wrap it around my finger, roll it like this to the end, and then I grab that wrap with my middle finger and pull, and that creates a little knot, but you can do that however you want. And then I take my needle and just begin to stitch. Now this tree is super simple. It's just a bunch of straight stitches. Some could also refer to this as long and short stitch, which is just varying lengths of your stitches. Some are short, some are long. And there's no super specific method to this. You just come up at one of the ends of the line, go down to the other end, and just fill in the entire shape however you want, in whatever order you want. And with this stitch, as we fill it in, it can really be however you want it to be. You don't have to follow the specific lines that are drawn there. You can just use that as a guide to angle your stitches correctly, and you just want to pack in your stitches. You can come up between stitches, you can split stitches. If you end up going down or up in the middle of another stitch, that is also fine, and it's just going to create this really great layered shaggy look to the tree. And you'll just do that the whole way down. And I forgot to include how to knot this off in the back. So I'll show you that next. If you have any gaps that you don't like, you can go ahead with your needle and just fill in any of the spaces or gaps with an extra stitch. And in my editing, I had to skip ahead and use a different clip to show you how to knot it in the back. So I know it's a different color, but you're going to flip over your work when you get done with the green. You'll take your needle under a couple close by stitches and then leave a loop like this. Go through the loop 2 times, the same direction 2 times. And then you'll pull that tight, and that will create a little knot, and then you just snip it off and we'll move to the next color. Now we're going to take 3 strands of the brown, knot one end, and the other will hang loose on your needle. And we're just going to create a satin stitch, so that is all the same length stitches as close together as we can possibly get them. So you come up at the top of the trunk and then down to the bottom, and you want to squeeze these stitches together really tightly. Then knot it when you're done. This is the ermine star. Same thing, 3 threads of white, and we're just making 3 straight stitches across the edge. Now every once in a while you want to tug your felt like that because you don't want to pull too tightly that you bunch up the felt. So every once in a while I stretch out the felt to make sure that my stitches are not too tight. And inevitably at some point you'll get a little twisted knot like this. Just put your needle through the loop of the knot. There's always a little loop at the top. Pull that up and just pull both of the strings going down, and one of them will loosen up the knot. It's just a slip knot. It happens often. And if you just pull the loop of the needle all the way up and then tug the strings, it will come out. You can use seed beads for these little dots or the French knot, and I'll show you how to do that. So I pinch it between my finger and my thumb, and then take my needle, wrap it around the back of this thread 2 times, and then I want you to just wiggle that around and just see how holding it with your left hand affects the wrap on the needle. It just gives you an idea of how it can be controlled with your left hand, the tightness. And then you'll insert your needle back down into the fabric right next to where you came up and slowly pull it through the fabric and then release with your opposite hand. When we switch to metallic thread, it's nice to make a little loop of the thread first, and that'll go right through the eye of your needle much more quickly. The top of the star is just like we did the white stars, so it's just the straight stitches. And this is also just straight diagonal stitches across the tree. You can angle it however you want, and it's super simple. Just make straight stitches the whole way across until we get down to the bottom. We'll go ahead and attach our seed beads with the gold thread, so you might want to switch to a thinner needle so it will go through the beads. But you just come up through the tree, put a bead on your gold thread, and then go right back down through the fabric, and that will attach your little beads, and then tie that off in the back when you're done. Once we get to this point, we're going to wash it off in cold water, and this will dissolve the paper on our design. Squeeze it out with a towel and let it dry, and now we're going to attach our white part to the top of the mitten. I'm using 3 strands again, and I'm just making a straight stitch here, holding my pieces of felt together, then go forward a stitch length, and then back down into the hole of the last stitch. This is called a back stitch. It's a little tricky to see the white on white, but we're going to do this on the front and the back of the mitten. And if you need a longer tutorial that you can see more clearly, you can check out my stitch sampler playlist. Now I'm taking a length of maroon thread that goes around the mitten about 3 times, and I'm going to tie my twine here in a loop and just set that in the top corner of the 2 pieces of my mitten, and go through the back with my needle and maroon thread. And now place your pieces of felt together, and now we're going to make our next stitch through, from front to back, through all of that. And you can go ahead and pull that tight. I know that's a little tricky working around the little twine there, but just pull that tight as best you can. Now moving forward with our blanket stitch, we're going to go through the front of the fabric again, through both sides. And you're going to pull that most of the way through until you have a little loop here. And you want to go through the loop from right to left and pull that nice and snug. And then we'll move down about 1/8 of an inch or so through the front of the fabric again, all the way to the back. This is our next stitch. Pull that till you have a loop, and then go through the loop right to left and pull that nice and snug. Now for this example on the blanket stitch, I am using 6 strands of thread, but as you can see, it's a lot harder to pull through the fabric. I definitely recommend splitting this long piece into 3 and 3 and just use 3 strands of thread. I think it looks nicer and it's a lot easier to work with, but here I am. You can see how far apart my stitches are and how far into the fabric I go. Each time you leave a loop, go through that loop and then pull it tight once you get untangled here. It's a little tricky at first when you have that extra rope hanging down. Again, going through front to back, pull it through, leave a loop, and then go through the loop. And we're going to go the whole way around this way. This is called the blanket stitch. And I know that it feels a little tricky at first, but you'll get it as we go. And we just continue like that, front to back, leave a loop, go through the loop. And then once you get in a little bit, you want to line up your felt and make sure that they match up on the ends. If they don't match up, then just trim off any extra on the front or back. And I was hoping that my piece would go the whole way around this design, but it didn't. So when you get to the end where you only have about 4 inches left, you're going to open the 2 pieces, grab a little bit of the felt with your needle, make this little loop, and then go through your loop 2 times to create a knot, and we'll snip that off and start a new thread. When you pull the knot, I do recommend pinching the knot and pulling so that you don't pull the felt too much. Then we grab our new thread, and you're going to go between the layers, go from the middle to the back first. Then match up your felts again. And then we're going to come around to the front and go front to back through our loop and pull it. And you're just going to continue on until the very end. And when we get all the way back to the top, we're going to grab inside the edge of the mitten, we're going to grab a tiny bit of thread or felt, make the loop, go through 2 times to make your little knot. And then we're going to take our needle down inside the mitten and angle it out towards the front. And this is going to hide the tail. So we're just going to pull that through and then snip it off. And then once you open your mitten, that little tail will disappear and it will be inside and you won't have to worry about it. And there's our little mitten. You can slide in a gift card or cash or little trinkets and reuse it year to year. Let me know if you have any questions.